Hi there, I'm Jacob with Alberta 3D. I just got my Anycubic Vyper. First time ever having a Vyper. Heard great reviews, especially from 3D Printing Nerd. Can't wait to open it. So when it arrived, it actually was wet. When the FedEx guy brought it to the door, he forewarned me it was wet, but he reported it. So if I needed to claim it, I could. I accepted it as damaged. But as soon as I opened it, everything inside was dry. Well, I haven't actually taken the foam off, but inside the plastic was totally dry. Anycubic is wrapped it in a big plastic bag, so not worried about any damage to the electronics. So what I did is I just cut the box flaps off, and now I'm going to finally open it. So of course it comes with lots of foam, which I will put under the printer later. Got a Ziploc here with a pretty USB cable. It's actually the same as a printer, the USB-B. Extra nozzles, some zip ties, a couple little ones. The instructions aren't on top. This was actually the first thing. Full-size SD card or is it an adapter? Full-size SD card from the looks of it. Quality control. After-sales service card. I believe, oh, there's a QR code on that card. Oh, for their Facebook page and YouTube channel and anycubic.com. So they're just trying to get you to go there first before you phone them or anything else. Comes with a micro SD card reader. Now I'm wondering if this is a micro SD card hiding in here. Nope, full size. Maybe that's just the software. So yeah, micro SD card reader. Oh, also full size. Both full size and micro SD USB reader. Extra nozzle. As you might notice, it's a volcano style nozzle. It's the long nozzle because the heat block will be facing downwards instead of, well, basically turn 9 degrees from the average heat block, which gives you a longer heating zone and potential to print a little faster. But it does print a little differently because you have more molten plastic before it prints. It's a longer distance of melted plastic as opposed to the filament. Yeah. Plastic scraper for removing prints. That's different. But I know the metal ones I've used before, I've actually damaged my print bed before, so maybe that's why they went with plastic. Now this actually has a PEI sheet. I've never used one like that, and they're supposedly really durable and don't need to be scraped at all unless you, I've heard if you put PETG on it, you can actually get it really stuck in there if you don't use any glue stick or anything, or any hairspray or anything like that. So I'll be leery of that, but normally if you're using it properly, it should just pop off your prints. So that'll be exciting. Handful of bolts, only 6-7 bolts to be had. 3 zip ties, and a little bit of white filament. It says it's PLA 10 millimeters. Sorry, 10 meters. That's a big difference. Alright, so what else we got? Set this over here. That'll be our filament holder, spool holder later. Almost looks like somebody's iPhone. A little bulky, but that's the display. It has a micro SD card slot in it. Connector on the back. I believe the SD card, if it's like my Voxelab, it was for updating the firmware on the display. Power cord. Definitely going to need that. Oh, it's also Ziploc. That's embarrassing. I won't plug it in yet because I got to make sure it's on the right voltage. Alright, now we get to the good stuff. Assembly instructions. For detailed instructions, software installation, refer to user manual from the SD card. There we go. Or visit Anycubic to download the manual. Pictures for illustrative purposes only. Obviously, they're warning you that do not follow exactly the picture. There might be something a little different from the real thing. Just so that you're not saying, well, this is the exact line where the hole goes. Yeah, so anyway, should have frame, base, display screen, filament holder, 7 screws just like I have, 4 washers on the bolts, data cable, power cable, filament, nozzle, memory card, reader, after sale service card, and tool kit. I haven't got to that yet. Oh, here's the other part of the spool holder, the actual cylinder for the spool. Installation, step 1, take tools from the toolbox, front side of the machine, the base, front right side of the machine base for assembly, install frame. Basically it just says put the frame on, step 1. Step 2, install screen. Step 3, install filament. Put in the Teflon tube to the extruder, connect all the wires, use zip ties. Oh, to fasten the Bowden tube to the wiring harness to the French head. Cut off the 4 zip ties. After cutting the bottom one, shake the platform. Confirm whether the platform is shaking way down. If so, tighten the hexagonal pillars, yes, the eccentrics, to bring in the wheels a little closer. And then before leveling and plugging it in, make sure your voltage is set correctly. In North America, and particularly Canada, where I am, it needs to be at 110 or similar, 105, 120, never exactly 110. And then apparently use the display to actually load the filament. Should be fun. Alright, let's take this thing out. Now there's a serious piece of foam. Sweet. Oh, looks good. Oh yeah, and there's no moisture in here at all, so I'm not to worry. Oh, that PEI sheet is way shinier than I thought it would be. I gotta be careful because it might be connected. Oh, it's not. Okay, so yeah, the upright old gantry set up here. It's not in any way connected to the build platform yet, so I can just take it out separate. That's really nice. Because I've seen others where they're connected together and you gotta kind of rustle both of them out. Fortunately, that's not the case. Now be very careful setting this down because I don't want to damage any connectors or anything. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. So there's the build plate. It's all attached to it. So I gotta take the foam out again. Excuse my head. And my bad haircut. Alright. There's that. And here it is. Oh, I gotta show you. Actually, really nicely packaged. I like it. Way better than the other printers I have. I have an Anycubic Mega Zero. I've actually been surprised with it. That was my first printer. After I learned a lot, I have been surprised with how good and reliable it is, which is part of the reason I decided to go for this too. Anycubic seems to be good at having reliability and accuracy. I'm hoping there's nothing else in there. We'll find out later. Alright, so there it is. For some reason I thought it would look bigger, but I believe it's only 235 by 235, which really is just the full volume of my other printers, which are all advertised as 220 by 220. It's very sturdy, nice and heavy. Power supply's in the base. And, oh right, there's a tool drawer, I forgot about that. Yes, so the tool drawer is right here, held in by magnets. And the magnets are the correct orientation. I know if you watched 3D Printing Nerd, Joel Telling, his video, they were upside down or reversed. But yeah, this one actually holds in nice and tight, so they got them on the right way. Maybe they saw that in his video. Little foam on top there, which isn't necessary. And they did include the side cutters. Really tiny side cutters. That's interesting. They look pretty precise though. And they even have a lock. Cool. Oh, if I can open it. Oh, gotta squeeze it a little. There we go. Smallest side cutters ever. But they seem pretty sturdy. It's good. Allen keys, nozzle cleaning, actually in a nozzle cleaner, actually in a little vial. That's nice. My other one was actually just had a bit of foam stuck on the end and in a Ziploc bag, and I ended up poking myself once, so this is a nice setup. And then yeah, the double-ended wrench, double-sided and single-sided wrench. Alright, I'm going to need Allen keys to actually assemble it. Wiring's nice, it's kind of flat wiring, which should hold itself fairly well as it's going up and down. Strain leaf on the wires here on the bed. The bed has some foam underneath, and I know there's zip ties under there too. I'll take the foam out because it might be hard when the gantry's on. I'll leave the zip tie till after, as instructed. Let's see, take tools from the box. Oh, I see. That's what I meant. From the toolbox to the front right side of the machine base. That's what they were talking about. Take the tools from here. Front right side of the machine base. I guess I'll leave the foam in there for now. There we go. And without pinching any wires. That's actually different. They've machined away right here. They've machined away the space for the upright to go for the gantry, but they've actually painted over it, because I've seen other ones where they've done that and they just left it bare aluminum, but this one they painted it black. So they must have done that before it was powder coated. Yeah, and even inside and on the ends of the extrusions are all black as well, so they must have cut all their pieces first, have them powder coated after. I like that. Much cleaner finish. Also shows that you can't just grab any old extrusion and cut it to size. They have to actually have their own cut and then sent off or finished in-house or however they're doing it. Nervous. Okay. I also gotta try not to scratch my powder coating. It's pretty tight. There is a bit of wiggle in the cutaway. Wait a minute. This right side's not sitting just so. Oh, there it is. Okay. That's pretty good straight off the bat. Pretty tight fit, but not irritatingly tight. But now the catch is, how do I do this and put the screws in at the same time? Fortunately, it's lined up by that little cut in the extrusion, so it shouldn't be too hard. Pour those out. Washer's already on the bolts. Now we'll tip it up together. And put my palm under here. I can at least hopefully get it started. That'll make it easier to turn on the side. So yeah, trying to make sure it's as perpendicular as possible. Get it started. Oh yeah, no problem. That's one. I just don't want to put any strain on these bolts by leaning it back and forth. One nice thing too is the stepper motors on the Z-axis are not Z-axis are not touching the base, so that means they're not being pushed out of alignment by sitting on the extrusion. Because I know on my, well, I'm not sure, one of my printers, it seems that the stepper motor isn't perfectly square because the base of the stepper motor for the Z-axis is sitting on the extrusion, sitting on here. There's no gap, and so if this is slightly off, it's basically pushing on the motor. And obviously this should never be off perpendicular, but if it's right down at the bottom, it has to be perfect, which I suppose could hold this perpendicular, but also can lead to the stepper motor not sitting perfectly flat if anything's off. So I like that there's a gap there. I mean, that's just personal preference, I guess. Other people might think the opposite, that they don't want the gap there. Now they don't, yeah, they have ooh, I better not turn that yet. They have solid couplers, not flexible couplers. That's one thing I was actually wondering about. There you go. And they use little gates, I think they're photoelectric gates right here, so that when this piece of metal comes down, very precise spot where it intersects the laser, or well, probably infrared light beam through here. Just acts as a switch, but that way it can zero both sides, and so it will know if the two sides are out of sync. If the gantry is a little bit crooked, it'll be able to level them by that. So if you happen to press down on one side when it's turned off and the stepper motors are off and it spins one side down, not the other, it will actually self-square itself, which is pretty rare. Most printers don't do that. Even if they have dual steppers, some of them are actually connected by a belt at the top so that they stay in sync, two stepper motors. But of course the initial setup is a little trickier with that because you have to make sure that they're exactly level the first setup, and then once they're in sync with that belt, they can't really come out of sync unless it slips the belt. But on this style, it will not, well, it can correct itself. So when it comes down to the Z, the first, like every time it comes down, they hit the Z switch, it will sense both sides, and if one's lower than the other, it will straighten them out. So that's perfectly square. So even when you're changing filament or something, you're actually putting a little weight on one side or the other, you push it a little bit out of square. And with the dual Z screws, you can actually have the whole thing sitting crooked in printing if you don't have this double-sided sensors. Now these Allen keys are pretty tiny. Like they don't feel very sturdy, but that's okay. Oops. Don't do that. There you go. So they show their video actually laying the machine right down on the side, but I don't want to do that because I'm laying it down on the gantry. So I'll be laying on the plastic parts that stick out in the edge there, so I just don't want to push anything out of place or twist anything or anything like that. And if I have it sitting like this, then only the machining is going to keep it square for me. So what I'm doing is going back and forth between the bolts, trying to apply relatively even torque, not too much force, because you don't want to strip them. It is only aluminum. And since I'm over here, I'm going to double check everything else is tight. That one was actually a little bit loose. Always a good idea, because even if they tighten these all up perfectly at the factory, which I'm sure they probably have a torque wrench and actually torque them to spec, in their journey across the ocean, by boat or by plane or by train or however, stuff will loosen up. So I'll do the same on the other side. Same thing happened. Flipped it up left. A little top heavy with all that stuff up there. Now you might notice this is actually a Bowden tube setup. The extruder is not direct drive. There's some argument to be made that, well, either way, Bowden or direct drive, one or the other is better. A lot of people tend to change to direct drive because you have less retraction and your filament's closer to where it's coming out of the hot end of the nozzle, and it's a little more, I guess, accurate in that way, because you're not having this slightly kinked long tube. So you don't have this tube that your filament's inside, and of course there's a bit of space in there that the filament can wiggle around, so really it's not as accurate, because when you're pushing it down here, there's some room for it to bend up and down within the tube, and of course then you're not pushing and extracting exactly the same as if you had the motor right here pushing and pulling. So different setup, but there's advantage to this in that the weight of the head is less because you don't have the motor on it. So this weighs very little, or at least a lot less than if it had the motor attached to it, which can result in being able to move the print head faster without any shaking. Because when you come to the end of a stroke, it stops suddenly, and there's going to be a bit of a bounce as it stops. It'll be almost invisible when you're just watching it, but you'll see it in your prints afterwards. There'll be a bit of well, I guess it's like a repeat pattern of whatever corner it made. So there is an advantage to having this kind of extruder, having a Bowden tube. Also on this one they have a dual gear extruder. I have the same on my Mega Zero. It's actually, I think, exactly the same unless they've updated something, but visually it's the same. And it has dual gears, which means I can print flexible filament like TPE or TPU. And I have done on my Mega Zero. I printed TPE. I think the rating was 85 for the flexibility, and it printed just fine. It never had any issue. And it's so weird because when you're loading it, it's literally like loading a wet noodle. It is so floppy. It's even more floppy than elastic band, and it can print it. So it's pushing it down this tube and printing it, and I just don't know how it doesn't kink, but it works. So I'm presuming this Vyper will do that really well also. So let's not forget anything. Oh, I didn't tighten these side bolts. I might not need it, but and these top ones, we'll just double check those are tight. Yep, they are. There's also a filament runout sensor. And what that'll do is it'll stop printing and basically pause printing for you to go and change filament. So if, for example, you have to go to work while your printer's printing and your spool runs out, you can come back and load filament. And the nice thing about that, or the big difference, is it will actually keep the temperature up on the build plate, so your print doesn't come off. Sometimes you can do your own version of that if you have a good guess of when your filament's going to run. You can set up a pause in Cura or whatever slicer you're using and have it pause for a second. But there's oftentimes it will end up timing out, the build plate will cool down and your print will come loose. But if you have a filament sensor, it will wait until you come back and load filament. It will keep the build plate warm, and it will pause the print head off to the side in such a way that it can resume pretty much the same as if it was doing a retraction or a travel move. So you won't have a strange layer line or anything weird in your print. It should actually be able to continue without any problems at all. So, I mean, I'm sure I'll have to test that out sooner or later. Install screen. All right. Just like that. And there's one long bolt, two short bolts. And obvious, the long one has to go on the top because they've drilled the hole in the middle of the extrusion, or the low part of the extrusion rather. So the short ones won't reach. That keeps it simple. Yeah, I'm really surprised how shiny and glittery this plate is. I've seen countless, well, I wouldn't say countless, but I've seen several videos of people using them. And they never look that shiny to me. But in real life, it's gold with texture. It's also a rougher texture than I expected too. I thought it would be a smoother texture and less glittery. Now that could be because I'm comparing to maybe a Prusa matte finish perhaps. Might be a little smoother than that and less shiny. Don't have Prusa. Filament holder. Wait, right? Yes, still screen. Filament holder. Oh yeah, simple. Twist into place, locks in. And does it show anywhere in particular to put this? It says, hook it on, tip it down. Oh, I see. It will lock in. They are not that particular on placement, so I'm just going to try and line up roughly with the filament sensor, which puts it pretty far back. Actually, you could put it right back against the extrusion, I think. Oh. You can't, because the bolt's getting in the way. You got to be a little bit in. And I am not locked in. Okay, make sure you lift this up high enough to get it locked in. I had it down like this, it won't snap in. You have to be way up here. And you have to be on this side of the bolts here. And there you go. I left the printer a little to get it locked in completely, because when it hit the table it wasn't actually clicking in. Alright. I guess that's the little things you find out when you actually have it. Insert Teflon tube into extruder, already done. Oh, no, it needs the other one. Alright. So they're talking about this one. Don't do this. That would be stupid. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed with how bent out of shape this is. Would be nice if that was a little straighter. Mind you, this is pretty bendable. I'll probably replace it with Capricorn later. Oh, and they've actually used it before. There's a bit of a ridge on here from it being locked into the fitting before. So they probably did some test prints. That's a good sign. I hope so. That's awesome. Alright. So I usually press it in, pull the collar back, this part here, pull it up a little, and then pull on the tube. Just make sure, and do that a couple times. Pulling up on here, pulling on the tube. That helps to seat it in nice. And the other thing you can do, if you're worried about your tube being loose, particularly on the nozzle, this one I don't need to, I don't think. But on my other Bowden tubes, I'll back the fitting off, actually about a rotation or 1.5 turns, and then do that, and then tighten it back down, and that really presses it down against the nozzle. That has been a great tip. It helps a lot. But I'm not going to touch this end on this one. They've actually put a little zip tie on here to hold it. Really skinny zip tie. Okay, they don't say to do that on the other end, but you really shouldn't have to. Connect all those wires to their corresponding ports by the label respectively. Sure. It doesn't get much more detailed than that. Alright. Display. Well, they do actually number them if I follow the directions. Print head wires, number 1. Well, I can't do that because they're over here. Oh, they lock in. Well, I hope I don't ever have to change any of these wires. I guess you could just buy the whole set. I actually saw on Anycubic YouTube channel, they show taking this off and how to replace fans and everything. It's all inside here, so you don't have to do any wiring within this cable. It's all right inside here, which is really nice. Keeps it simple, and there is the option to put in your own fans and that sort of thing, and potentially even print a new cover in the future. So it's not totally locked off. Like, it's not like you can't do those upgrades. They can be done. Okay. String wires. Hard to read the red lettering. Said don't stretch right. ZR. Can't mess that up. ZR. Yeah, you really can't mess this up. The wires won't even reach to the wrong locations. And all of them are very clearly labeled. So, that's really nice. If only I could see what I was doing. Oh, I see. Yeah, so the wires are underneath this plate here. They just come out when they have to. So, yeah, all the wiring's kind of routed for you already. Nice setup. This is way easier than any of my other printers. And I just hope it auto levels and prints as beautifully as it's supposed to. I'm actually kind of curious what this piece of tape on the sheet is for. I think it'd be holding a wire or something, but it wasn't holding anything. It's just sitting there. It was just a mistake. Maybe they dropped a piece. Yeah, because there's tape around the harness here and here in the same style. It's a little odd. Doesn't seem to be missing from anywhere else. I mean, I suppose there could be a bit on here that they didn't put on, and maybe that's it. But yeah, maybe that's all it was. Maybe it was a piece wrapped around here that came loose. Strange. Oh well. Extruder wires. Definitely need those. Oh, I see. Don't grab the Z screws. There we go. So you can see. So this guy goes in here. Locks in, so you can't have it pull out. These are all pretty much just press fit, but they're all right there. And these don't have to move anywhere. This all stays together. So these wires aren't going to be moving back and forth like these guys are. So the relation between here and here is never going to change. Oh, another thing. They have these, which look unusual compared to the usual Z screw nut. Normally, you see this on here. But what they've done is they have basically two of these in there. So there's one this way, another one down here, and there's a spring pressing them apart. And what that does is takes away any slack in the screw. So the screw can't, there's no play on the threads. Because if you thread this onto the rod just by itself, there's a little bit of wiggle. And by having two of them with a spring pushing them apart, you get rid of all that wiggle. So that makes for much better layer lines, or it can. It's actually an upgrade I considered, but this already has it. I believe it's called anti-backlash. Zip tie to fasten the print head wires in the Teflon tube. Okay. We shall using about two of these just to attach this to this, basically to guide the wires and the tube together. It'd be nice if I cut the zip ties first. Can I do that? No. Huh, okay. No, I can't cut the zip ties first. They also show it as the whole print head being lower in the picture. Anyway. Yeah, I can't cut the zip ties first because it will automatically level itself and power itself down. So they don't want you pushing the gantry down. So I won't do that. I will zip tie. I'm going to leave these a little loose so that I can decide where to actually zip them tight later. And they don't really have to be tight. Also, if you do them too tight, you're bending the wires, so it's more of a guide, really. It doesn't have to be exact. So this way, the wire and the tube stay basically together. Keeps the wires from kinking or acting any weird way, because that tube will hold that shape a lot better than just the wires will. Also keeps them from flopping around or knocking into your print. I have had that happen on my other machine because the wires for here up to the extruder are way too long and they kind of hang way out, and I've actually had it catch on the print. So this is a much better setup, having it this flat cable. I like that, and having it tied here so that it can't droop down or anything weird. Check before using. Make sure the 4 zip ties shown below have been cut off before operating the machine. Alright, let's do it. I shall use my tiny cutters. The blades on here are the same as the other ones though, just the handles are really small. When I say the other ones, I'm referring to the ones that were included in my Anycubic Omega Zero. For some reason, my VoxLab Aquila did not come with them, and they're extremely handy. So, as much as they're teeny weeny, I'm very glad they include them. 1, 2. Three. Yeah, be careful not to cut any wires, but there really isn't any nearby, so no big deal. I love the way this is packaged. They did a very good job for shipping. With the exception of my box getting wet There's no complaints. Now this one is a little tricky. It's easier from the other side. Not really. Oh, okay. So this is why the cutters are so small, so you can actually fit it underneath the bed to print it, cut this off. Oh my. Oh, that's not designed to come off very easy, is it? Okay. In hindsight, I would cut this off before putting the filament holder on. It might be a little easier. But man, this is really awkward. Well, I'd say that's my one disappointment right now. It's difficult to cut that off. Aha! Come in from the front, next to the extrusion. And cut twice, I guess. Aha! There. Wasn't so bad. Interesting choice, though. Got one there, but I guess it keeps it from rolling around and chipping. And ooh, the wires in the print bed actually look really nice. Flat wires zigzagging down the sides and zigzag all through the middle. Looks like it'll be very even heat. That's good. After cutting bottom zig tie, shake the platform to confirm whether the printing platform is shaking up and down. If so, tighten the hexagonal pillars. Yep, it is. So, it's loose. Wiggle, wiggle. So in that case, I need to tighten it. I'm going to take off this piece of tape from nowhere. I don't know. Weird. I really think it's from the wires because they put tape on this one and there isn't any tape on this one. But all it would do is a slight strain relief, but it's not needed. So I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, cold coffee. Alright. So now I need to adjust the hexagonal pillars. I can't really show you guys, but both of the right side ones have the hexagon just for the rollers. So on the roller here, where the shaft is for the, I guess it's the axle for the roller, there is a hexagon shaped pillar column that you can turn. And if you turn it the right way, it will actually tighten this up. Now you don't want to turn it too tight, because it still needs to be able to move, but you want to get rid of the wiggle that this has. I'm going to pull it forward. Oh, it's also a good idea to not move any part of the printer quickly, because you're generating electricity through the motors. That was easy. Yeah, so side to side is pretty good, but it's a good idea to push this direction. Still got wiggle. So the back one also needs tightening. And you can also just put your hands on the wheel and try to turn them. So basically try and turn these wheels with your fingers. That will tell you how tight they are. Speaking of which, these ones actually feel a little loose. These are tight. This one's loose. So I can turn this. Oh yeah. So I'll need to turn this hexagonal as well. There was a quick video that they have on their website, or on their YouTube channel rather, basically showing you the same thing to check those things. A little bit of turn, did about third, quarter, thereabouts. Still a little loose. I'll go another flat. Oh, that's looser. Aha. So I must have gone past center, or I was going away from it. Oh, there we go. Let's not do that. It's really bad now. Hey, come on. I killed it. Okay. 360 degrees later. Wait. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that being a little tighter. I'm not sure if I can. There, I believe, is my limit. For the front. For the back. Maybe a little more. If for any reason this doesn't work, you can't actually get it tight, then you can, using the Allen key and the smaller wrench, loosen these off entirely and press them in towards the center and tighten them down again. And that way you're all the way this way in the center of the hole. And that would help if for some reason there's not enough adjustment in the eccentric. But there should be. There's more adjustment than I thought, though. Or rather, they're more towards the end of the adjustment than I thought, I guess. Let's see. I know, with getting rings. Oop. Oh, yeah. Oh, like a rock. Wow. Okay, but good enough. Now I do want to actually tighten these using the Allen key. So I don't turn it with the Allen key, hold it with the Allen key. Use the wrench to turn the nut tighter on top between the build plate and I don't know the proper word for it, but the aluminum plate that holds everything. There is the slightest bit of wiggle. So I want to tighten that back one. It's going to be a little trickier. All the way forward. Let's see if my Allen key will fit in there. Like that. Oh, it won't. And tape all the way back. It's interesting. Well, instead, I will simply tighten the nut without putting the Allen key in it and see if it turns the Allen bolt. It does turn the bolt. Huh. Well, I guess I can't really tighten that one easily. Yeah, a little more clearance would have been nice. Because my Allen key won't fit under here into the bolt where it's touching the build plate or the bed. But it doesn't need it. I was just kind of being picky. Yeah, no, the plate doesn't move at all. It's nice. Okay. Oh yes, this one has to be tightened as well. Hey, excuse me. They actually drilled the holes through here. So on one of my printers, they didn't drill a hole through here, and so you can't actually put an Allen key in there. I'm glad they've done that here. And I just noticed that all these extrusions are custom. They're not, well, not quite. These are normal, but these extrusions, this extrusion, these, they don't have the slots on every side. They only have the slots on the side they're needed. I've never seen that before. That's really interesting. So I wonder if they got them custom made or it's just something that people don't normally order. But yeah, even this one, they've actually got a square corner here and a rounded corner here. And opposite on the other side. And same sort of thing here. Yeah, so I don't know that they're custom extrusions, but they're just uncommon extrusions. So instead of just going with a straight 20-20, they've got 20-20 with no grooves on the side. Very interesting. Okay. What's that here? Boom. I'm just going to tighten these up a little, just for my own good feelings. My main concern is I want this to be very reliable. My hope for this printer is that it can be the first to be really producing for me. I want something that I can just continuously print. Basically, print something, you know, pop it off the build plate, print again, or even print a different file. Obviously, I probably won't be doing the same file over and over, but I just want something where it's a quick turnaround, where I don't have to be constantly cleaning the nozzle or fixing the Bowden tube having backed out, or, you know, adjusting the rollers all the time, or adjusting my level all the time. Both my other machines do not have automatic bed leveling, and I really wanted that. But yeah, the opportunity came up to buy this instead of just buying a BL Touch. So here we are. But yes, my main hope for this is simple, reliable printing. No fiddling around and messing with profiles for hours and leveling 100 times. I just want to be able to print, take it off, print again, take it off, print again. Not what I usually end up doing, which is print, take it off, clean the build plate, put glue stick on the build plate, double check my level, and then print again. It's just a lot of steps that are almost unnecessary. And yeah, I want something very reliable. So I'm hoping this is it. I want something as reliable as a Prusa, but cheaper. Okay, well, I can't actually tighten all of them without taking more things apart, and I don't want to do that. So, next step, after cutting the bottom to shake platform, yes, refer to user's manual. Always saying to understand what they mean about the wheels, refer to the user's manual and the SD card, so obviously there's a much more thorough book on there. That'll be good to look at. Make sure the correct voltage is selected. Let's see. Where do I check? Oh yeah, be careful doing this. You don't want to grab the screws. They show a picture of a slot power box. It doesn't specify exactly where. So I'm assuming it's going to be underneath. Or not. I can see the power supply is basically here. So, where? Oh, it's in that big hole right there. Oh yeah, it's on the incorrect voltage for my district here. So definitely check for that, guys. It is set to 230. Switch. Now it says 115. There we go. So, in North America, when you have something that's set to 230 and plug it into our 115, it usually just doesn't turn on. It's not a big deal. But if you're in another place like Australia or Europe where it's 230 and you have it set to 110 and plug it in, bad things happen. So it's very important you check that. But that might be why they've defaulted to the 230 setting, because then if somebody doesn't check that, it just won't turn on, or it will have underpowered and act weird rather than melting things or frying something. So that's probably why they've chosen that voltage as the default. It's a little safer bet. Alright, time to power it up. Pair, leveling, auto leveling, and interface. And the interface, as shown below, will pop up. Click OK. Machine starts probe 16 spots on the platform automatically. Before leveling, ensure the nozzle is clean and free of foreign matter to avoid affecting the leveling effect. Let's see. Nozzle looks very clean. I don't even see any residual filament, so I don't know. Maybe they didn't actually test it. Plug it in. Oh. plugged in. So I didn't need to switch it on. It did his little song and dance. Did you hear that? Cool. Alright. And my tools are all over the place. It's a mess already. What am I supposed to do? What up? Look at that. Pictures. Prepare. Wait, I'm gonna make sure my PI sheet is centered. It's not. Ooh, it's so magnety. Oh, that's fun. Sticks good. A couple little pins or centering points would be good. It just sucks it right out of your hand. It's so sticky. Strong magnet. I like that. I'm so used to like the fridge magnets that have no power. Alright, print. Or sorry, prepare. Leveling. Auto leveling. The probing will start. Please confirm to continue. Okay. Have my zip ties off? Yes. Click, click. Can I hook up the Z switch? The Y switch was already connected. I did not check that it was. Oops. Mind you, it was not listed in their instructions to check it. Coming down. Probing. Oh, it is actually a full-size SD card. And yeah, the full-size USB-B. Interesting. I'm okay with these zip tie placement here. I'm gonna cut them off. Maybe it's run into something. Oh, when you're cutting zip ties, if you cut them perpendicular as opposed to parallel, they're not as sharp. They make more of a point instead of a knife edge. Still sharp, but not as bad. Fairly quiet. I can hear the fan, but I think it's mostly a power supply fan. The machine oil on the bottom here. Likely to keep the tools from rusting. It says probing. It does not say anything else. So it's not telling what temperature it's at or if it's heating up or anything. It just says probing ... 3 dots or 4 dots? A Star Wars reference. It's not 3 or 4 dots though. I believe it's 6. 6 dots. I need those. Okay, came down and touched. Come back up. Touched in. 2 touches in each spot, I guess. It's interesting the gates for the Z on both sides there is actually quite a distance away from the print bed, so it gives it some room to not crash into the bed while it's doing its thing. And this printer actually has no knobs. There is no adjustment on the level at all. It's completely automatic. All sensor. So the build plate can't be adjusted or shifted anyway. This may take a little while. Recently saw a video of the Prusa doing this much faster. But you don't have to do this every print. It just does it and then stores it until the next time you say you want to do it again. So if you're beating it on a little bit, or if you change anything, then you can do it again. One thing to note is there's very little dust on the machine. There is a little bit of dust on here, but nothing that would stop anything from working properly. Lots of things when they come brand new, they have factory dust all over me. You can blow them off or wipe them down, but this is really clean. There's a little spot in my build plate. It's a speck. A speck of foam. Oh no. Now the thing I don't know is, can I use rubbing alcohol to clean my fingerprints and maybe a bit of tape residue off of that. So next I need to load some filament. Prepare filament in. An interface below will pop up. Straighten the end of the filament. Okay. Cut the end straight. Put it on the holder. Make sure you put it on the right way around. Pass through the sensor, into the extruder and tell the gear. Wait till the nozzle reaches target temperature as shown on the display screen. Okay, so it'll show me the temperature. And then when it reaches the temperature, hit filament in again. And it'll automatically fill it up. Oh yes, so when you've got filament out the nozzle, then you click stop. So you can use tweezers to pull away the residual filament. Oh, okay. If the filament melted is not smooth or too thin, adjust the extrusion force by rotating the knob. So it's basically saying adjust the tension on here so that it's pressing hard enough against the filament if it's slipping, or if it's crushing it. They also say it's good to measure about 18 millimeters from the base of the knob to base of the extrusion plate. Extruder. Can measure that. And it says nothing. So now I can choose auto leveling again, or I can change my Z offset. Z or Z. My kids say Z. When I was a kid, almost nobody said Z. And now, most people say Z. They even teach you that way in school. It's interesting. I think it doesn't really matter. I could care less, but it's one of those generational things, I guess. Oh, very interesting. So right now, it is almost exactly at 18. It's not an accurate measurement, but I'm getting 17.9. So yeah, they've already set it to about 18 millimeters like they recommend. Very nice that they've done so much stuff for you. Obviously I have to go with silver. So in case it isn't obvious, I have a lot of silver filament. So I'm going to use silver. This is 3D Solutech PLA. They actually call it silver metal. I don't know if I have a sample. Not handy. It was darker than I wanted for Starship models, but it has a nice shine to it. Oh, I can feel there's just a micro switch in there. Click, click. Simple, simple. It is getting stuck, however. Why? Just gotta be straight. And then straight into this tiny Heath Bowden tube, up to the gear. I can actually see right through because it's clear. That's nice. And I'm going to just leave it, put it on the gear. I like to put it right in the Bowden tube. Makes it feel better. There we go. Okay, so push it back. I'm going to peel the sticker. Filament. Filament in. Current head temperature is too low and the machine is heating up automatically. Okay. So it forewarns you, or rather gives you a warning that it needs to heat up. And there it is. I like the tool drawer. It's nice. I can never find my tools. Also, I printed myself something for my spatula that sits right here, and I never put it back. It's always not there. Bad habit. $215, $216, it's shooting for $230. Pretty normal. It's kind of middle of the road because it does not ask you if you want to load PLA or PETG or whatever you're loading. It just says filament. What does that mean? $228. Oh, interesting. It slowed down. $229. So it went fast up to when it was close and then it slowed down. That's very clever. $229. Most of my printers overshoot it and come back down. $230. Is it going to just sit at $230? No question. Okay. Sitting at $230, filament in. Immediately started turning. And paused for a second. And filament's coming out white. That almost seems like there was filament in the Bowden tube. Oh, there definitely was. I can see my silver coming down the tube right now. Only dropped a tiny bit out. But yeah, there was white filament in it before. And they actually cleaned it out of the nozzle before they shipped it. Cool. Suppose I could have used a white sample. Oh well. Another time. There we are. Squeezing out white. Super hot. And squeezing out silver. Not on the build plate, but next to it. Which is totally fine. It's dropped to 228. Even though it's set to 230 while it's extruding. That's interesting. So the PIE tune might not be perfect. Stopped. Yeah, so I don't think the part cooling fan's on right now, because it's not really hardening up. And oozing real good. Sweet. Yeah, so you actually get more ooze with the volcano hot end, because like I said, there's more sitting in there molten. Well, let's see what we can do with this. I want to print. Now, I'm going to take my chances, because I saw Joel tell me to do it, and I trust him. A little bit of alcohol. And just a quick wipe. There. Oh yeah. I got some little bits off it. Not PI, but little bits of black from the yeah, little black flakies, probably from the foam. Okay, cool. Now I need something in there. I'm going to go ahead and print their test, because nobody does that anymore. All our live streams. Yeah, see, that's how much oozed out of the thing after it stopped and I pulled it off. Volcano Hot End is going to be a slimy one, but that's good because I can print fast. So I'm just going to go ahead and see what they got for tests on here. Oh yeah, I always forget. Upside down. Every SD card ever. Sweet, I like the full-size SD card. Print. There is a __ Viper and Files English Viper. It's interesting. It almost seems like it's showing me all the files on the disk. And just can I print Files English Viper? That doesn't sound right. Refresh? Nope. Down arrow, up arrow. There's a print, resume, up arrow, down arrow, fresh, and I can choose from the files. So there is _ Viper. Print. Printing has finished. That is not a G-code. It's interesting it even sees it. English Viper print, nothing. Oh, okay, so I can't just print from the SD card. That's interesting. So they don't include, at least not unless it's in a file. Resume. What's resume mean? Yeah, I guess resume is to resume its previous print. Yes, finished. Click on zero. That's interesting. So there's a folder or two on here, but I can't just straight up print from it. Okay. In that case, I guess I'll have to get my laptop and slice and all that jazz to print something. Very interesting. I really thought they would include G-code, but they do not. Yeah, nope. No G-code on the file, or at least not on the top folder. Very interesting. Well, there it is. I like it. Looks good. Assembles easy. Straight to printing, pretty much. And yeah, I'll have to get my laptop and print something. Cool. Thanks for watching my video, and I will make more videos later to follow up. Thanks.